Fáilte roimh Harnash chuig Fleadhfest Ciarra. Even though there was a Comhaltas branch in Kinmare in 1955, where also in 1955 was held the very first ever Fleadh Cheoil Ciarra, it wasn't until December 1959 that the journey for Comhaltas in Kerry did really begin in earnest. The name of Andrew Sheehy and the town of Ballyhaig are synonyms with this occasion. Karen Trinch, Rooney Chuiste Chunte Ciarra takes up the story.
Comhaltas Cheoil was formed in Mullingar in 1951. A branch had been formed in Kinmare in 1955, but it was not until December 1959 that a group of musicians and like-minded enthusiasts came together in Ballyhaig to form Comhaltas in Kerry. The next meeting in Fleadh Cheoil was arranged for the 25th of January in Dr. Sweeney's house in Ballyduff. And there was a huge attendance of musicians at this meeting, so much so that it was like a mini Fleadh. Among them was Father Pat Ahern from my van, who later went on to establish Ciarra, the National Folk Theatre of Ireland. In the minute book, those attending are listed as violinists, accordionists and other enthusiasts. The next Fleadh Cheoil was arranged for the old school premises in Strand Street, Tralee. In attendance with Father Ahern on this occasion was Micheál O'Hine from Galway, who showed all present how to play the piano accordion. Shortly after this meeting, Andrew Sheehy died, and his untimely death was a huge blow to Comhaltas in Kerry. As a tribute to the late Andrew Sheehy, it was decided to host the first Fleadh Cheoil Ciarra in Ballyhaig in October 1960. And there was a huge attendance of musicians and enthusiasts from all over Ireland. Among them was Willie Clancy from County Clare, Joe Burke from County Galway, as well as Dennis Murphy and Padraig O'Keefe from County Kerry. The Andrew Sheehy Memorial Cup was won for the senior fiddle competition by Seamus Connolly from Killaloo, County Clare. Other prize winners on the day were Anne Sheehy on accordion and tin whistle, Michael Mulcahy from Brosna, Sean Ahern from my van, Richard Casey from Causeway, as well as Chris Droney from Bell Harbour, County Clare, and Robbie McMahon from County Clare, who won the senior ballad competition.
Then the Fleadh was organised in Ballyhaig the following year, and we went there in a bus from Lixnaw and we were put into the different competitions. I'm sure anyone who was there to play 2 tunes, and I was in the under 14 accordion, and I think I was in the tin whistle, probably under 14 tin whistle as well. So I suppose I happened to win that one, and it went on from there. There was no follow-up of a Munster Fleadh in those days. There was no qualifying, but you could go to the Munster Fleadh and play if you wanted to. Anyone could enter for the Munster Fleadh or even for the All-Ireland. It was a big thrill going to Ballyhaig. We were going in a bus, like I was 14 years. Was I 14? I was, I suppose. And it was kind of our first big outing. And it was my first time seeing the sea. We actually stayed the night, my sister and myself, in the Castle Arms, which was owned by the Sheehy family. And it was the Andrew Sheehy who was the first man to start the Comhaltas. So we stayed in that hotel for the Saturday night. We went to the concert. There was a celebrity concert on the Saturday night. And then you had the competitions on the Sunday, and then I suppose there was a prize winners concert on the Sunday night. That was the format of nearly all the plazas today.
The establishment of a number of branches in the capital town of Tralee and the purchase of the former Masonic Hall on Edward Street, Tralee in May 1976 certainly were major milestones for the development of the organisation. Over the next few years, the building was renovated and was officially opened in July 1978 under the name of Dúchas House. Closhimid, Cad a bhí ar siúl I drálaí na blianta sin.
My very first class was, I suppose, with Nicky McAuliffe up in the VEC, and learning the tin whistle. After that, I was attending Comhaltas classes in Balloonach with Donald DeBarra, and I suppose my next teacher I think was Anne McAuliffe. Anne was teaching in Dúchas House on a Thursday evening, I remember at the time. And as I was involved with Sheen's the Ciarra as well as Comhaltas, I got to know Anne and Nicky a lot better. So Nicky and Anne used to start calling to our house, and I would have learned a lot from Nicky as well then. He would have introduced me to a lot of old recordings, and you know, he was very generous with his time and his knowledge, and as I say, give me an awful lot of music as well. The marching bands were great for the kids really, because marches typically are easier to play. So, you know, for young kids starting now, they'd learn Roddy McCarley and a couple of the simple marches, and they were instantly playing, you know, and then they were part of the band, you know. So all that was a boost of confidence and the fun in that, and then they were encouraged to learn more. So it was a great old introduction, I think, into Irish music. And, you know, the band, even the marching and, you know, actually participating in the band was great fun. We used to practice up in Comhaltas Units schoolyard, and, you know, and our drills and our formations, and, you know, trying to keep in time and remember everything, and, you know, mind your instruments, and, you know, it was a great experience really.
I am standing here in front of the new Dúchas Comhaltas Centre. The Institute of Technology, Tralee, built a new Kerry Sports Academy, and Dúchas is part of that build. The agreement reached between the college management and the IT Tralee, now known as the Munster Technological University, was that we would pay for the portion of building that we have and its contents and equipment. But really, to get the story of how we came to be here, we would have to go back to 1976.
John, sure, at that particular time there was 3 branches of Comhaltas in Tralee. You know, the population, I suppose, I don't know, Tralee was much different that time anyway, because there was 3 different branches. Anyway, I forget, I can't think of the names of them now offhand, but but like for going back to the Dúchas building, John, it focused the advantage of having Dúchas House built at that particular time in Tralee by them people. It focused all the people of the county on Dúchas then, and it gave the people an awareness of the fact of what these people had accomplished, because to purchase that building and the history of the building itself being handed over from a religious order to a cultural order, like that was unheard of at that particular time, and the fact that I were able to accomplish that in itself was a major thing. That was a historical event, John. You had some of the greatest people in the opening of Docus and Tralee. Brian McMahon wrote about that, like it was one of the greatest things ever, and he went on to explain about the meaning of Docus and the heritage and the passing on of traditions.
The committee and county board then had to fundraise at home and abroad to complete the building and bring it to a standard suitable for a Kerry Comhaltas home. This was the home for the following 27 years that provided opportunities for music, song, dance and story for the people of Kerry.
My earliest memory of Duca's house was the opening night and the anticipation of it, you know, leading up to the opening night, and the preparation for it was very exciting. I suppose Jerry Keane would have been really a key driving force behind it. You know, I remember Jerry being very prominent and pushing for it, and I suppose fundraising for it. It was a great anchor to have in the town because you had a lot of active branches, but we were all using rented facilities really for our classes and for our concerts, or for our Irish nights and whatever. So now we had our own venue and our own I suppose, cultural centre. So I remember going to classes there with Anne McAuliffe. I remember performing in Session in the little auditorium upstairs. It was great to get the opportunity to perform as well, because, you know, when you're practicing your tunes and you're learning your tunes, you need to have a context for it, really. And it's great to have the opportunity to go up on stage and to perform the music that you've learned and to play with great musicians. I mean, we made lifelong friends, really, out of Session. And we had 3 different groups going at the time. One was Duca's House, and the other was in Hillgrove Hotel in Dingle. There was another Session group in Binner's Hotel in Tralee, and you had Mauro Griffin leading a group out in Ballyseedy Castle. But I think, yeah, Duca's was a wonderful place to go. We had our session upstairs, and then you had the session afterwards downstairs, where you were meeting all the, you know, the tourists coming from all over the world, interacting with them. You know, they loved to meet the artists afterwards, and that was great for us. You know, when we were talking 13, 14, and 15. You know, the confidence of meeting all these people and, you know, answering their questions and experiencing an informal session as well, when we were too young to go to pubs. So it was a key development, I think, for Comhaltas in Tralee.
Doing the classes there was great. It was a very good venue for doing the classes, and of course every year you had Portfalta would be sponsoring Session, which was one night a week for about 8 weeks during the summer time, and we had great. And there'd be a big session then after the Session, you know, and you'd almost people coming in joining the sessions, you know. And I suppose it's nice to look back now too on Duca's. Some of the people that I met there now, Maura Welsh in particular was one girl that came in as a young girl with a fiddle. Tom Sullivan, Tom Hannifin, there was a quick family, Paul Rick and his sister Philomena, you know, and I suppose Maura now was teaching herself, and so was Tom Sullivan down in Bantry. So the conveyor belt is moving on. From 1978, I think it was opened, wasn't it? Yes. And of course our famous trips to London, making up funds as well, which we went for 2 years. We went 78 and we went 79. And also this famous record which we made in 78 in Cultola in Dublin. And there's a great photo here in front of it. It's the Brasna Rambays. And it was a Portfalta photo they took for the front of the record. And the Brasna Kerry band started out of a rainbow competition back in 1960 from Listowel. in those days, as you know, the All-Ireland Run-By competition was in Listowel, and they won the first 4 in a row from 1960 to 63. And the band, they were the musicians in the group, and the band grew to that.
We used to go into Duca's house in Tralee, and the stage was upstairs, and we were part of the session group. Now, we were quite young at the time, but you had the older musicians there, like Sonny Keane and Dermot himself, and Sonny Keane as well. And it was great to have the older musicians playing with you, because it really brought you on in your music and steadied you up, and it was great to have that experience at such a young age. So we'd have about an hour of a show and maybe go downstairs, have the cup on tea and the brack, and you know, people participated if they were in. They sang a song or danced a dance or played a tune on an instrument. So it was a very relaxed night.
Yes, there would be a concert in Ducas, and we sailed across from Cork. And Jorkeen, of course, would have great contacts all over England, and we were set up by people, you know, we were set up in people's houses, and there'd be a concert in a local hall. I think we played in the National Ballroom in Kilburn. I remember that one all right. Mm-hmm. And we played in halls in Coventry, and I presume Birmingham, and all around London, you know.
Well, of course, the session, of course, as we mentioned already, it was great. It was on during July and August. Great session altogether. James Connor had a wonderful group there. He was the producer. All the artists from around Tralee, and they were lovely musicians, singers and dancers. And also, of course, was bingo was popular there. Popular. I was the caller steward for a number of years on the bingo, and I enjoyed that also, because when the bingo started, I thought that I might be able, you know, to come across to the bingo people, that they had their own way of doing. But no, I'd always ask them occasionally, how am I doing now? Am I going too fast for it? Am I going too slow? Must I speak louder? How am I doing? Everything was fine, so I was doing fine. And during the bingo, then of course, I had a great, Leo Griffin was involved in bringing up the books. He was very much involved. And of course, to get the hall ready for bingo alone was a big job, like. Chairs had to be put out out on the floor and arranged, and when that was over, then that we put back again into place and cleaned up, and there was an awful lot of work involved in that. There was also quizzes held there. And the one cake that sticks out in my memory was the barnbrack. We always had barnbrack. I always managed to have it, and it was always ready for you know. And of course we had the roses Tralee during the Festival of Kerry. We had we used to get onto the Festival of Kerry committee, and they'd send up a few roses, name a night, and they'd send up maybe 3 or 4 of the roses. And I used to come and get involved. And then they were involved in by way of asking them to dance or to, you know, show the young here, like we called it, where you go Patsy Healy, at the old time waltz. They just loved to get involved. And so wonderful altogether. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed every minute of it.
At a county board meeting in September 2003, when Jackie Walsh, the then chairman, and Trassa Ferratier, county secretary, informed the county board delegates that he had a report from the fire officer with a number of recommendations. We were allowed some time to digest this information. At the next county board meeting, a subcommittee of the county board was set up.
But we couldn't have stayed because the health and safety people came in and gave a look at it and said like to keep going, so much money should be spent in it, and of course it was a way cheaper, being easier to sell it.
And in 2004 a decision was made to sell Duchess House in conjunction with county board delegates and the trustees of Comhaltas Units. In 2005 the sale of Duchess House in Edward Street in Tralee was complete. That money was invested for the new build that we were to plan going forward. In 2007, the college allowed us use the North Campus College classrooms for meetings and competitions such as Colan-Dearig and Salton Oak and County Fleadh that we held in Tralee. This opportunity continued for the following number of years, as the college was already in progress building a library, and that had to be completed before a decision to start the Kerry Sports Academy. The date we were all waiting for came in March 2017, when Taoiseach Enda Kenny turned the sod for the building to commence. It commenced very shortly afterwards and was moving at pace when the site was visited by Laura Somaraku, Arstúr Hor Comhaltas Cultúr, the Munster Comhaltas officers, county board officers and delegates. The building was completed in early 2019. The facilities available to Comhaltas in the new Duchess Comhaltas Centre is we have a reception area as we come in the front door, an office, an auditorium that can seat 150 people, a large stage, back room, changing room, 2 storerooms and a sound room. We have new sound equipment and a streaming equipment that we hope to put to good use. I want to thank North and East Kerry for leader funding that supported us to buy the streaming and the sound equipment. The new Comhaltas building was officially opened on the 2nd of October by Laura Somaraku, Arstúr Hor Comhaltas Cultúr, and this was a most enjoyable night. From there we had the Concert Tour of Ireland, Ceilidh House recorded, music classes, singing classes and dancing classes had commenced. In March 2020, Comhaltas cancelled all classes due to COVID-19 and the building was closed. In February 2021, the HSE requested the entrance of Duchess Comhaltas Centre and the reception area as access to the hall in the Kerry Sports Academy to administer the COVID-19 vaccine. We need to mention at this point the cooperation that exists between Comhaltas and the IT Tralee, now known as the Munster Technological University, and this cooperation continues to this day.
Táimid anródúil as ar bhuirgeanmh nua dúchas I Drálaí, ach níhe sin an tain siamh Comhaltas atá a gcoinne I Géirí. Tá an ceolann lonathe I Leacsná, agus cloisiméid faoin geolann ó bhaintre Leacsná agus daoine a bhí buinte cleis óthasach.
Well, welcome to Cheoil, the Diarmuid O'Cahan Cultural Centre. Here we have music classes, dancing classes, singing, Cora Gaeilge classes. We have two main events during the year. We have the Fleadh Cheoil, which happens in February, and the Fleadh Cheoil that happens in June.
There was a history of music in Liechtenstein, and mostly melodeon and fiddle. Down the Dyshire Road over here, at that time, back in, we'll say before around the time Comhaltas was formed, there was about 15 houses in that road, maybe 15, 16, and there was a fiddle in every house in that down that road. But around here, near Kerry, Liechtenstein especially, it was all melodeon players.
The music started for me at home. My father played the fiddle, so there were always musicians coming in playing with him, and I had uncles who loved to dance sets and cousins, and it was, I suppose, a rambling house, you'd say, and there was always music. Then we started off with our tin whistles at school, of course, Clan Douglas School in the parish of Liechtenstein. And we had very nice teachers, and a woman called Mrs. Lynch started us off on tin whistles. But I think I was able to play before I went to school.
I was always great friends with Diarmuid O'Cahan. I had known him before he went, but at that particular time then, when that happened, Diarmuid O'Cahan, see, we're talking about the early 60s, John, and the motor cars were very scarce at that particular time, and Diarmuid O'Cahan had a motor car at that time. Gerald used to be promoting Ceilidhs now. He was doing Ceilidhs all over. He had his own Ceilidh band that time, the Brickside Ceilidh band. And he was going all over Kerry because his job, the job he had that time, he was a travelling salesman for Terence and Tralee. And he was going down to Garsiveen and into Kinmare and back to Killargan and all over Kerry, travelling for the Terence. And he was promoting Comhaltas at the same time, putting up posters. And all that work was done behind. I was printing all them posters for him behind the door house from 1962 on.
The music was strong in the Liechtenstein area, yeah. A lot of accordion players, like you hear talk about Slieve Lucre now and all that, but they were mostly fiddles. But Liechtenstein, the accordion was very strong in Liechtenstein. There were some fiddles, all right. And of course the step dancing was big. And they liked to play reels more than, like Slieve Lucre would have their polkas and slides, but polkas were only ever played around the Liechtenstein area if there was a set being danced, and they played no slides at all because it wasn't part of the set. But the reel was, there was a big long reel at the start of the set, and we all knew how to dance that, going to the dances in Liechtenstein. We cycled to the dances in Liechtenstein where I lived. I lived in a place called Glencoe. So we cycled there, danced all night and cycled home again.
Then he got interested and he bought this place and he developed this place here and more or less single-handedly with the paperwork anyway and the financial side of it. Like, he was a genius at getting things done and financial stuff and paperwork.
Comhaltas started in Kerry in 59, was it?
Mm-hmm.
And there was a branch set up in Liechtenstein. So we were actually, which we didn't realise at the time, but we were at the first meeting of it. I didn't find out that until about 50 years after that we were the people at the first meeting. That'd be neighbours again, a man called Jim Moynihan from Rahi, and an uncle of mine and a couple of cousins and my sister Bridie. We were all at that first meeting in Liechtenstein, and it was historic, I suppose, but that only came out years after. So the following year, we used to go to the sessions. A Comhaltas meeting in those days was more of a session. There was very little business to be done. So it was always music, and there were loads of musicians there. Diarmuid O'Cahan would have been the main man, of course. And his brother, Pats, was a great accordion player. He's still alive. And there were Paddy Sullivan used to come from Outfit playing the fiddle, and they came from all over the locality. It was, I suppose, it was the only branch for miles around apart from Ballyhaig. And we had actually a band in Lixnaw called the Kingdom Ceilidh Band, and we travelled around to all the local villages playing for Ceilidhs.
I remember the first meetings of Comhaltas here in the old dance hall in Lixnaw. Like at every meeting, all the musicians brought their instruments, and the meeting would probably last maybe half an hour at most, and then you'd have an hour and a half of music that time. But there was no word about dancing, and there was seldom ever a song sung. It took Diarmuid O'Cahan 5 years from the day he put in the bid before he got the final papers for this place to get it signed up. 5 years. Doing 3 jobs together, honest to God. And everybody owed him a favour, and from this place started in John, he had only put call, and he had fellows with tractors, he had fellows with diggers, he had plasterers, he had plumbers, painters and slaters, and everything. And nearly everything here now, I don't think there was much wages paid for the building of the city hall. On the platform that day you had Laura Somorokua, Michal O'Loughlin, the previous president of Comhaltas that time, James O'Connor, chairman of the Munster Council, Michal O'Halloran from Ballyhaig, secretary of the Kerry County Board. You had Dick Spring and his wife, and you had Dan Buckley from Ballyar, he was the chairperson here that time. Mairead Brannock from Tralee, she was the secretary here that time. And you had Catherine Brown, the woman that was born as in this house, home from America after 80 years. And she did the official opening, she cut the sug on. It took off John anyway from what he thought it would be. Was I suppose a quite easy place for a few tunes, more or less a rambling house. But Comhaltas developed a costume as well around the same time. There was crowds of people, volumes of people coming in here, and it wasn't good enough at all. And the performance, the stage wasn't big enough at all, John, anyway. That was the bottom line. The stage was too small for the performers and everything. So we move on the other end, then across, you had the full width of the hall, then you had 8 feet more of space and width in the stage, like in depth. And that was empty catering for big concerts and everything.
I always say that we were so blessed as children. You know, we were probably around 10 or 12 years of age that we got to see Seamus Connolly, Joe Burke, Paddy Ryan, you know, all these great musicians, and there we were sitting in the top row eating our packet of potatoes, and we had so much talent And they're amongst us, the best of dancers and singers, Tom Gleeson, Nora Butler, God rest her, fabulous times, brilliant times.
Diarmid had started the ball rolling about building the extension of the back. This was finished to the standard that Mary McAleese came here to open it.
Oh, he was fantastic. He was a great motivator. I remember we used to have these little session groups and Fleadh Cheoil groups, and it was a great way of how to train you, how to participate in a concert, how to sit, how to play, and the stagecraft of the whole thing. And he was great for bringing different tunes from up the country, you know.
The 31st of May 2000, Mary McAleese did the official opening, and was here in Lichtenau for 2 hours. She was on an official visit to Fleadh Cheoil. Well, the amount of children that go through this place now in a week, every week, you'd have between singing, dancing, and Sean-Ross dancing and music, I suppose. You'd have close to 400 youngsters coming through the doors here every week, all through the year. But look, on the windows there now, John, they're sitting wooden blinds, like. They're the original there, and they're in this house now with 100 and something years. They are the originals, like. The impresses were there since I'd said, and the dresser, they're from first stage, and they're over 120 years old. Started mine at 10 o'clock at night and couldn't leave it for. We often came home with the dear late John from house dances. 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning. After we'd dancing all night, my brother Mike Nurtulun, and behind the Follies in Ballincourt, the house dances, and always that time there'd be always plenty of girls there to dance, like, but maybe the boys mightn't. There wouldn't be as many men or boys, like. And if we were young and active that time, then you would be on the floor as often as I wanted, like. And this is my life, John. I nothing. Comhaltas is my life. I couldn't live without it at all, like that.
You know, I suppose the most important thing I would say to any young musician is to keep listening to good music. Open your mind to all the different types of instruments that are out there, all the different styles that are out there, and make it your own.
This Maríomh Éamon á Thoragán an seo agus tá áthas orm an físeán garad seo a dhéanamh the bhór cúnta Ciarra mar cuid de Fleadhfest feithe héin. Dar nóí ar tharla Fleadh Cheoil Ciarra in feithe agus ní bheidh sé ann in feithe héin. Ach tá áthas orm go an bhór cúnta agus na craobhacha I Ciarra ag ghlacapát in Fleadhfest feithe héin. Tá bud ag fad dar nóí ag súil le Fleadh Cheoil Ciarra in feithe dó agus ag súil le Fleadh Cheoil na hÉireann sa bhuileán gar níos déanaí sa bhliain feithe dó comá. I'm delighted to make this short video for the Kerry County Board as part of the Fleadhfest 21. Obviously, as I said, the County Fleadh didn't happen in 2020. We all know the reasons for that, and it won't be happening in 2021. But I'm delighted that the County Board and the branches in Kerry are taking an active part in Fleadhfest 2021. And I'm greatly looking forward to Fleadh Cheoil Ciarra in 2022, whatever that might be. And of course, the Fleadh Cheoil na hÉireann in Mullingar. As you're all aware, the Fleadh has been awarded to Mullingar for 2022, and the local Fleadh Executive Committee in association with the Fleadh Team 22 are working very hard at the moment to ensure that we'll have one of the best Fleadhs ever in Mullingar. My journey with Comhaltas Units began with the Lichtenau branch back in the late 70s. I was secretary of the branch at that time, and I was elected assistant secretary of the Kerry County Board. I think it was around 1977 or 78. I know I took over from Anne McAuliffe, who was the outgoing assistant secretary at the time. And we had some wonderful good people in the county board, as there are today indeed. But people like James O'Connor from Ballyhaig was the chairman. People like Father Dan O'Riordan from St Brendan's College in Killarney was the vice chairman. Trasabani Eratair, who was the county secretary for many years with Kerry County Board, of course. Jerry O'Carroll from Killarney was the treasurer, and Diarmuid O'Cahan from my own branch in Lixna was the PRO. So that was a great learning curve for me in Coltis, when I was quite young at the time. I just finished secondary school and I got involved in the administration. But it was a great learning curve, and I'd like to pay tribute to those people. Some of them aren't with us today, but for me, it was an honour to be serving and learning all the time from people like Trasa and Diarmuid and James O'Connor and so on. And I suppose it was through Diarmuid O'Cahan, really, and through Taigo Mel Caha, who was the Cathaoirleach of the Munster Council, and Mark Mooney. I suppose those three people got me involved with Comhaltas Units in the beginning, and I was grateful for that, because certainly in later years my family gained an awful lot from Comhaltas, and they're all playing traditional Irish music today. It was an exciting time in the late 70s in the county board of Comhaltas. That was the time that the county board purchased the Duchess House in Edward Street around 1976, and I was very much part of that committee at the time as well, and we did a huge amount of fundraising. And I remember when I moved to Dublin later, I got involved with the Kerry Association in Dublin, and the Kerry Association organised many fundraising events for Duchess in Tralee. And of course Diarmuid had contacts all over the world, but he organised many events in Britain as well. And I was delighted to be at the official opening of the new Duchess Centre in the IT in Tralee last year, and I'm looking forward greatly to attending events in Duchess as we emerge from the pandemic. Later, of course, the Lixnar branch of Comhaltas purchased Cheoil, and again I was involved in the fundraising for that project as well. And we established, a number of us established, a committee in Dublin called the Lixnar Dublin Reunion Committee, and we had many fundraising events for that. And I'm delighted that Cheoil is going so well. It's been very well organised, very well administrated, and it's always in use, which is a very good sign. As Uachtaráin of Comhaltas Cheoil, and you may know I was elected a number of weeks ago as the 22nd president of Comhaltas Cheoil, and I'm looking forward to the next 3 years as Uachtaráin. And I can assure you I'll give it 100% of my time during my period of 3 years as Uachtaráin of Comhaltas Cheoil. So, mar sin, tá me agsúil le búlaliv I géirí go lua nuair a bheidh an COVID seo creatnatha, nuair a bheidh an vaccine feite I gachtainna, agus idir an dáling go míle maithagah agus go dé sibh slán.
We hope that you have all enjoyed our snapshot of Comhaltas highlights in Kerry from the very beginning in December 1959 right up to the present day. Go dtí chéad uair eile, fág míad slán libh.
Your